Good afternoon to all the dignitaries and participants present here. I am Kalyani Deshmukh, Assistant Professor from Department of Computer Science and Engineering from Professor Rammegi Institute of Technology and Research, Badnera. I welcome all of you for the second session of 1 week online short-term training program on research and publication ethics in association with Research Promotion Cell, PRMITR, Badnera, Amravati, and Computer Society of India, Amravati chapter. Before starting the session, let me introduce you the today's topic and also the today's speaker. The topic of this session is publication misconduct, and our speaker for this topic is Dr. G.R. Bomnote. Before starting the session, let me take an opportunity to introduce you all Dr. G.R. Bomnote, sir. Dr. G.R. Bomnote sir is a professor and head at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Professor Rammegi Institute of Technology and Research, Badnera, Amravati. He is presently the chairman, Board of Studies in Computer Science and Engineering and a member of Academic Council at Sant Gadgi Baba Amravati University, Amravati. He is the ex-dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Technology, Sant Gadgi Baba Amravati University, Amravati. He has 29 years of teaching, research, and administration experience. His education qualification is Sir is graduated in computer engineering from Walchand College of Engineering, Sangli. Postgraduated in computer science and engineering from PRMITR, Badnera, Amravati, and PhD in computer science and engineering from Sant Gadge Baba Amravati University, Amravati. 9 candidates have been awarded PhD under his supervision for PhD. He has credit 3 patents published and 207 published research papers in national and international journals and conferences as author and co-author. He has worked as reviewer for national and international conferences. His research interest includes networks, cybersecurity, and databases. He is recipient of many renowned awards, like he has been awarded as Promising Engineering Teacher for creative work done in technical education by ISTE New Delhi in 2014. The Institute of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers, that is IETE, for outstanding contribution for the development of applications of networks and internet with emphasis on uses in everyday life and commerce in 2016, and Best HOD of the Year by CSI Mumbai in TechNext India 2019. He is the founder chairman, Computer Society of India, Amravati chapter. He is a lifetime member of Indian Society of Technical Education, also Computer Society of India, also a member of Association of Computer Machinery, ACM, and fellow of the Institute of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers and the Institute of Engineers, India. Now I would like to request Dr. G.R. Bomnote sir to start the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalyani madam. Thank you for the introduction. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. There were some technical issues. So let us start with the publication misconduct. We had a beautiful session in the morning by Dr. Bansod sir. As you know, this research and publication ethics, this has now been introduced by UGC, and recently they had a notification that this should be included. Research and publication ethics should be included as 2 credits of in the PhD coursework, which is required for before the registration. And when the letter came, we thought that those who have missed this, let us have a short-term training program on this. And we applied to IST for the approval. We got it, as you know, as I told you earlier also, we got it, but then due to lockdown, so it was not possible. And then when we reapplied, we got a permission for online. And now this is a AICTE IST approved 1 week online short-term training programs on research and publication ethics. Now, in the morning session, Bansal sir has already told you what is the importance of ethics, the philosophy behind it, and then the why this is required. So to start with the ethics, before that, now this session will be on the publication misconduct. So in this half-hour session or 1 hour session, we will be discussing the publication misconduct. Basically, if time permits, what we will be discussing is what is the importance of publication, misconduct, what are the different misconduct, how they are defined, some ethical issues which are associated with this, then why misconduct occurs at the first place. Then UGC also came with a notification for how to avoid plagiarism, misconduct in research. So what are the provisions under that? So that also we will see. So it also talks of plagiarism, plagiarism types. What are the different levels of plagiarism? Because every time we have a question. How much percentage of plagiarism is allowed? So that is clearly mentioned in the notification which the UGC has given. It has also given there what are the penalties for plagiarism, how to prevent plagiarism, what measures the institute, the university should take, and then how it is detected. It has also given anti-plagiarism tools with certain MOUs, how you can get it, as UGC has recommended Urkund. So little about Urkund we will also see in this presentation. So to start with, it is why publication is important. Most of the participants, they are from the academic background and they know why publication is important. We say that many times it is you have to show, you have to do it and show it. That way it is said that if it wasn't published, means it wasn't done. So maybe every year we want some sort of publication. If you go for our PhD program, then also they ask for publications. In general, it is all the researchers in the world, they communicate with each other by writing. When you wrote your first paper or when you did your PhD, so you had to go through all those papers, and most of the research, it depends on, because we want to find the gaps, we want to find in what direction that research is going. So most of the things that depends on the published research, and really it is very sensitive to give the society, to give the fraternity a good or what is real. And these writings, we need to publish them in research journals, maybe in form of books or anywhere. And if misconduct happens in such publication, it will misdirect the society. That means it will hurt science and the related aspect. So we start with the please if there is somebody please mute him. Okay, thank you. So if we see the misconduct, most of us know what are the research misconduct, what are the how they can be classified as a plagiarism misconduct. Generally, it is said we have fabrication, falsification, plagiarism. No, UGC talks of FFP. Okay, please unmute. Now, what is research misconduct? Is fabrication, falsification, unethical research, whereas publication misconduct, you have plagiarism or biased or selective reporting. We are biased at some, we want that such type of report should be generated, or we are biased that the result should be in that way. It is not good to have this author abuse. Maybe their ideas, their views, their philosophy may be different, but then you need to write your views instead of abusing some other author. Then there can be redundant publications. For example, when we say that we have the same research, the same work, we publish it, the same work we publish it in different at different platforms, or maybe we have what we as called as slicing. We have salami slicing, and then the same report is redundantly published. So that is also a misconduct. Many times it is misuse of the position, and then either somebody forces to include him or her as a co-author or the main author, or many times it depends on where, at what position he is, and then maybe his thoughts are taken. So that way we will see this one by one. So as you know, plagiarism, the author presents the work of others, and it is a very serious academic offense. Without, we will see what are the different ways to avoid plagiarism, because we cannot present other works, but then of course we can give the credit to the other authors. We can quote them, and by mean what are the different ways, and if we use those ways, how it can be avoided. Redundant. So this is the same. Researcher publishes all a piece of work more than once without adequate cross-referencing or justification. So the same work is published without giving a referencing that this is needed here. Many times in our academic research also, we need number of publications. And many times it happens that though redundancy is there, but then we have to quote that where we have already published it, in what form, maybe the form it can be changed, or a reference should be given, a proper justification why it is required to again quote it here. So that justification should also be given. Falsification. This is you give the false data. Alteration of the observed result of a scientific experiment. It has been observed that many times it happens that to get some result, and many times when the equipment they are not supporting, you don't have laboratories, do not have facilities to conduct research, but then you don't get such result, but then you change the result to show that it is good or it is working. So that way. So it is manipulation of research material. Maybe the data which you have, the images, maybe some equipment, the processes. It is changing, or you may sometimes you omit some data. For example, when you want a straight line and the results are diverting from that line or from the graph. So you drop it, or the researcher may drop it. So that will be a falsification. It is not showing the true results. Then you have fabrication. Fabrication is making up. You fabricate the research data, results, or the research recordings, or the reporting. You invent some new data, you fabricate the data and then give it, you manipulate it. So this is again a most serious offense in scientific research. So this offenses make it very difficult for scientists to move forward, as it is unclear to anyone what the resources they were investigated and where, because things is the future researchers, they will be following the papers which you have published, the research data which you have published. There is interconnected connection between the values which you have got. So if one of the member acts as a irresponsibility member, then the future research will also affect. So this is a conference, a German rectors conference in Germany. It classified these 5 manifestations as serious crime. When you have one is falsifying the information, as we have discussed. Interaction of intellectual property, when somebody has got the intellectual property right, and then you violate it. The third is calming another person as co-author without their permission. So you include some co-authors. You see that maybe your head of the department or somebody, without taking his permission, what you do is you silently put their names, hoping that the paper will be published. So this is again a offense. Destruction of research work. So you do not show what is correct. So you distract it. And the 5th is destroying the primary data which you have. So these are said to be serious crimes. So let us see the ethical issues. Now it is the duty of a researcher to ensure that research is conducted in an ethical and responsible manner, from starting with the planning to publication. Whenever we start our research, it has to be planned in a way till the final publications. If, for example, if it is your PhD thesis, you are going through PhD, maybe how you plan, starting from your plan, a synopsis, to the final thesis report which you get. In your journey, there will be many types of publications. Maybe there will be presentations in the conferences, publications in journals. So study the design and get the ethical approval. So study the design, what you need, plan it, see whether it is appropriately designed, and get it ethically approved, maybe from your teacher, from your mentor. And now the UGC, they have said that there will be a research recognition committee. So get it approved, whether it is ethical to start with, and then you can go with the research. There are different tools for data analysis. Analyze the data appropriately, see what tools are there. It should not be that you take a data, for example, it is said that I want research. I want to know how many hospitals should be there, and you study that the number of cars are more in the city, and then you need more number of hospitals, or that way. So analyze the data properly. And see to it the authorship. The manuscript represent the valid work. Take public responsibility of the work, because whenever you are the author and when you are publishing it, so you take the responsibility of the work. And if at all there are conflict of interest, so it do not influence the methodology or outcome of the research. There can be conflict of interest. And the third, last, which we will be discussing, is redundant publication, that we have already discussed, and plagiarism. So if you see what are the types of plagiarism, we said that there can be direct plagiarism. Now this, the credit of this slide goes to the source customsaymisters.com from a blog, types of plagiarism. So direct plagiarism, when you take another person's work or pass it off as if it was yours without changing anything. Directly you pass it. Many times now this is not happening, but earlier it was when there were less number of resources. So thing was, when some conferences and something, they were there organized. So we used to receive, or maybe you might be having the same experience, that direct plagiarism papers were received, just removing the names of the author, putting the names, and then it was published. Self-plagiarism, maybe you have published your work somewhere else, and then again you publish the work. Or maybe you change it, you paraphrase it, the contents, and you publish your self-work. Mosaic plagiarism. What you do is you partially paraphrase, change the things, contents. You have a mix of other resources, different words, and you change some words, but then meaning remains the same, and the results, they remain the same. So there it is mosaic plagiarism, when you involve maybe number of contents from different sources without giving the credits. Sometimes it is accidental. You said that you have presented some information, then you are not cited it, you are not put in the quotation, you are not given due credit. So that is again accidental plagiarism. Misattribution. The source is different, and then the credits you give to a different source. So misattribution, when you attribute information that comes from one source, but then you attribute to a different source. The third is last is paraphrasing. So paraphrasing without giving any credit. You change the wordings of the sources information without giving due credit. So these are the types: direct plagiarism, whether it is direct plagiarism, self-plagiarism, mosaic, accidental, or it is misattribution, so, or paraphrasing without credits. So everything is not, it is not ethical, and it can be called as a misconduct. But then there is a question: misconduct, what it does not include? There is a certain level, what we say as level of tolerance. For example, when you give for a plagiarism check, and then at what level, So UGC has given the directions. For example, ordinary errors, maybe there can be chances of ordinary errors. There can be good faith differences in interpretation or judgment of data. Many times interpretation is difficult. For what data is, the judgment is difficult, and then maybe there may be interpretation differences. There can be disagreements, maybe research, scholarly or political disagreements. Maybe it depends on what is the local relevance. It depends on which country where you are. Again, it can be good faith personal, or there can be different professional opinions. Again, the ethical behavior and views can be different. Your morals, they can be private. So moral differences, ethical differences. So this cannot be counted as misconduct. And if at all there are authorship controversy, then it cannot be counted as misconduct. Maybe you wrote some paper and you're not knowing whether somebody else has already written on the same topic. There can be controversies. Maybe sometimes it goes to for legal hearing, but they cannot be called as misconduct. As I said, most of the participants, as I see, they are with academic background, and there is always a pressure, maybe the career pressure, maybe academic pressure, maybe you are told to submit the paper in this 1 month, you finish a paper, or maybe in 6 months you have to complete the work. So that way, publication pressure, you are told to, you should, maybe your mentor tell you, I want a publication this month, or maybe you have worked for so many years and then you have not published. So again, there is a publication pressure. Many times it is out of, you have a desire to get name or fame, or maybe what we have at the end of the year, you get certain credits, or maybe you want to have your career advancement. So again, that is a pressure, and maybe that can be a reason for a misconduct to happen. Or maybe there can be base of research, and then you think that there are so many sources. The base of science is there, and so many sources you are there, and then you just try to copy the things from one source and another. Another reason can be misconduct. You want a financial gain. Somewhere, sometimes it is in some institute, they ask, or if you have 2 publications, then and then only you will be getting some increments that way, or maybe you will be rewarded with something. And misconduct can also occur because you don't have ability to determine what is right or what is wrong. Or as I said, it can be out of the cultural differences, I say, with the local relevance. Maybe at different countries we have different states, or at different places we have the culture is different. So this can also result or tend to a misconduct to occur. Now, as I said, UGC has given the guidelines, but then we will see what are the consequences. Consequences can be, it can, because of misconduct, it can be an end to career as a researcher. Maybe dismissal from faculty, or if you have applied for a research grant, or you got a approval of the grant, but then when it was known that there was a misconduct, or maybe a misconduct, you are attached to some misconduct and you have applied for grants, there can be refusal to it, rejection of the grant, and the researcher may also be blacklisted. It can be, if it is found that it is a fabricator, and if that fabricator has achieved some academic achievements, maybe that can be taken away. For example, in some state, maybe somewhere in Gujarat, so a vice chancellor, so it was identified that he has done some misconduct, research misconduct, has not followed the ethics, and then he lost the position. Here is an example of John Hendrick. He was stripped of his doctorate degree by the university when he was found fabrication related research done during the employment. We also had seen few researchers and the action was taken. For example, during his MPhil, he has submitted. So at that time, there were no internet, there was no connectivity. So it would happen that the researcher would take a report from somebody at the other universities and you to submit it. So once they were identified, their MPhil degree, doctorate degree were stripped off. Or there was a case where in the thesis it was found that out of some 100, 200 pages, total 52 pages were as it is taken from a thesis which was online available. So this will be the end of the career of a researcher if the misconducts they are found. So as I said, basically this is for the UGC notification which came on 23rd July 2018, which is called as Promotion of Academic Integrity and Prevention of Plagiarism in Higher Educational Institution. So regulations 218. The main objectives of this notification is to create awareness about the responsible conduct of research, many times the dissertation, the thesis, and the promotion of academic integrity, and then prevention of misconduct, including plagiarism in academic writing among the student, the researcher, and the staff. So to create the awareness about responsible conduct of research. Next objective was to establish institutional mechanism. So earlier there was no institutional mechanism. Now they have established. We will see what are those mechanisms. So institutional mechanism through education and training of faculties who are responsible to conduct research, mark the thesis, evaluate the thesis, dissertation, guide those thesis and dissertation. Then it is also to establish the promotion of academic integrity and deterrence from plagiarism. The third objective was to develop a system to detect plagiarism. So it tells to set up a mechanism to prevent plagiarism, and in case, so mechanism to prevent plagiarism, and if at all there is plagiarism, so set up a mechanism how to prevent the plagiarism, and in case of plagiarism, how to punish a student or the faculty or a researcher or any staff of what is called as of a university or higher education institute, for the institutes, the colleges. So with these 4 objectives, the UGC notification came. So they made a provision, institutional mechanism, along with the plagiarism tools and how to get it. So they had a departmental academic integrity panel. So at department level, they had academic integrity panel. So this is responsible for department level to investigate the allegations of plagiarism. Anyway, in the research regulations for MPhil and PhD, they have given that each department should have a research at the research center. They should have a research advisory committee. So along with the research advisory committee who is advising for the research, now they told to make a department academic integrity panel. So it will be again chaired by the head of the department. There are 2, along with the chairman, there are 2 members. 1 member should be outside the department. Maybe it can be from the institute or the other institutes, mostly from the other departments of the institute, who is then nominated by the principal, or in case of university, by the director or head of the department, senior academician from outside the department. And another member is a person who is well versed with anti-plagiarism tool. So he should be those who know, who is well versed with anti-plagiarism tool. So again, and he is nominated by the head of the department. So this is a 3-man committee who is looking for to investigate the allegations of plagiarism. Then this DAIP, Department Academic Integrity Panel, they need to recommend to a panel which is at the institutional level. So Institutional Academic Integrity Panel, IAIP, who have to consider the recommendations of the Departmental Academic Integrity Panel. So it constitutes of the chairman is, in case of university, it is the pro vice chancellor. Maybe dean can also be nominated as the chairman, or in case of college institutions, the senior academicians of the college institution. Along with the chairman, there are 3 members. Member 1 is the senior academician, other than the chairman, to be nominated by the head of the institution. Means in case of university, it is the vice chancellor or a principal at the college, the director. Second member is nominated by, again, the principal, head of the HEI, who should be outside from the institute or the university, from the higher educational institute. And a third member is, again, a person well versed with anti-plagiarism tools, and that is nominated by the principal, the head of HEI, the principal, the vice chancellor, wherever as applicable. So at department level, you have 3 members team, and then their recommendations goes to the Institutional Academic Integrity Panel, where we have 4 members. Along with the chairman, there are 3 other members. So these are the provisions that has to be made according to the new letter which was issued with the new regulations, which was issued by the UGC in 2018. Now under this, the contents which are to be checked, and it is must that what should be checked. The research paper which the scholars need to publish, Then the dissertations, which our postgraduate students are submitting, the thesis, PhD thesis they are writing, whether the faculty or the scholars, they are writing the books, or in some places the researcher, the faculty or the institute have their blogs and they write on their blogs. So those things, those contents are to be necessarily checked under these new guidelines. Whereas there is, it is not required that each and every essay which the student write, the assignments they write, or those script they submit as a term work, or maybe the project reports at B level, or for their mini projects, or at the undergraduate level, or any coursework, they need not to be checked. What we will do is we will complete this and take the questions. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So should I continue? And then this is, we are about to finish. Maybe in 5 minutes, we will end up the presentation, and then we can start with a few, we can take up few questions. And what to exclude? As I said, all quoted work reproduced with all necessary permission or attribution, that has to be excluded. Somewhere, many times it is the references. If you check for some on some free tools, they show even the references they take, so that are excluded. The bibliography which you are giving, or maybe the table of contents, preface, acknowledgement. So those things, they are excluded from plagiarism. So it is, you submit the chapters, maybe there is a limit. For example, it will take 40,000 words. Another file you submit with 40,000 words. So that way you have to submit if it is in terms. So it depends on what tool you are using. And again, many times you show all generic terms, the generic laws, the standards, symbols, the standard equations. So they will not be considered as a plagiarism. They will be excluded. And UGC has also given the level of plagiarism, what is tolerable. So level 0, tolerated. So up to 10% minor similarities, so there is no penalty. Level 1, which is from 10 to above 10 to 40%. So that comes under level 1. We will see what penalties are there, what UG says. Above 40 to 60, again, that is another level to give punishment penalties, and above 60, so it is not tolerated. So it also gives, the UGC regulations also talks of the penalties. For example, when it is up to 10%, so no penalty. There can be chances of minor similarities. So up to 10, 15%. So here it is 10%, so it is tolerable. Level 1 is from 10 to 40. You are asked to modify the manuscript. So you are given advice to modify it, and then you can withdraw this manuscript, and then again you can submit it again. So the manuscript is then, is there a problem with? You're on mobile? Okay. Am I audible and the slides are visible?
Yes, sir, you are audible and slides are visible.
Okay, thank you. So let's continue with this. Level 2 is 40 to 60%. So again, if it is 40 to 60%, the first thing is they will ask you to withdraw the manuscript. And if it is a faculty, can be denied for 1 annual increment, denied a right for 1 annual increment. And the third is shall not be allowed to supervise for a period of 2 years. So this is when the similarity is 40 to 60. So we should be very serious about this. And if it is above 60%, so most of the things they are copied. So first thing is you are asked to withdraw the manuscript, whether you have submitted the thesis or the papers or whatever it is. So so level third, 60% withdrawal of manuscript shall be denied for 2 successive annual increments, and for 2 years you are not allowed to be a supervisor for a period of 2 years. So these are the penalties which are been given by UGC regulation 2018. And they have also given the measures how it can be prevented. So for prevention, as I told, every time it is you have to consult your mentor, your teacher. From the start, you have to plan your work, plan your paper, take the effective notes. Always see to it that you cite all the sources from where you have taken your data. Be always clear who has said this. Put it in the quotation. So make it very clear. And learn how to paraphrase what is allowed. And always see from where you are taking this material. See which standard sources you have. Analyze, always evaluate it before including them. It also talks of, so in general it is plagiarism detection. We talk of the collection of the manuscript, analyze the thing, then confirm what has happened, whether plagiarism is there. Maybe there are different tools which can be used, and then the final stage is the investigation. So this was taken from the paper Plagiarism Prevention, Detention and Detection. The courtesy of this slide goes to the paper of 2001 by Kulwin. Now there are different tools, plagiarism tools, as you may be knowing. There are some tools which are free, which are paid. There are different plagiarism detection. Those tools, they depend on different the way how the plagiarism is detected. For example, there can be character-based methods. Those tools can use. Maybe there can be vector-based syntax features. Depends on the extracted and categorized tokens. rather than using the screen as strings. Some of them can be which can take the use of the parts of speech. So syntax based method can be there. Other tools can be semantic based. Same or maybe different, same meaning with different words. There can be fuzzy based method. So you take similarity of speech representation. So starting with 0 to 1 is exactly matched. There can be structured based. Some tools use structured based. So they can be used on lexical, semantics, synthetic. Somewhere cross-lingual plagiarism, different, they support different languages also, but then the knowledge of multiple languages is required. Some tools make use of grammar semantics, and they go to a higher level hybrid plagiarism detection method. So now you have many machine learning tools supporting machine learning, so it can be easily implemented. And few of them are also citation based. So depending on citation, detect plagiarism based on the citation basis. So they can tell if you are not cited them, they can tell from which source you have taken this. So there are many tools, Orkun, PlaxScan, Turnitin, some are paid, some are free tools. Some take maybe there are tools which take care of a source code plagiarism detection, textual, so they can be used. So here is a list of few. Orkun. So we will just give a minute for this Orkun, the anti-plagiarism software, because UGC has recommended this through its InfliLib. So if you have a MOU with InfliLib, so you can have the Orkun. Orkun is completely automated system against plagiarism. So what it checks is the main source areas is the internet, published material which they have, sort of databases, journal, books, and submitted student material. For example, whatever the thesis now, the PhD thesis or MPhil thesis which are submitted, so they are then uploaded on Shodhganga in InfliLib net. So Orkun takes care of all these while checking the plagiarism, and it supports different file formats. All the generic file formats like doc, docx, ppt, pptx, txt, rtf, html. AICTE, the approval process handbook, even last year and this year, they told that every institution should have a anti-plagiarism check software, and UGC has issued that you can have Orkun maybe free of cost for the affiliated, but then there are certain for the university and institution which are affiliated to university, so you can get the Orkun account totally free of cost. Condition is like for every research project what we have, you should first sign MOU with InfliLib Center. Once you sign it, you have to have a coordinator, so he will interact with the person assigned, and the condition is your institute should be in section 12B or 2F. For example, to get the permanent affiliation, what we need is we should satisfy the conditions given in 12B 2F. So that way, what we say, your institution should have 12B and recognized as per 12B and 2F. And then you are eligible for funding from UGC for this Urkund. If you are private university, you can contact eGalactic, which is Pune-based company, and Urkund is supplied. The university, they have InfraLib, they have the MOU with eGalactic, through which we get the Urkund account. So placing order directly will also do. So this is in general. So Urkund supports academic integrity, foster improved academic writing, what their site tells, supporting plagiarism control measures. So this was all about a few things about the research publication misconduct. And I suppose we have discussed few things about it. We have discussed main thing was the main aim of this presentation was we should be able to tell what UGC is doing for this in case of misconduct, or in order to prevent it, what it will be doing. So I will be happy to take few questions. I suppose we have some time. Yes, sir. Do we have time? Okay, so just one or two questions we can take. If there are no questions, maybe.
Sir, good afternoon. This is Syed from Andhra Pradesh.
Yeah.
Sir, recently I have attended some PhD Vivos. In that one, the research scholar got a comment is that redundancy. Can you please elaborate a little more about this one, sir, if possible?
Okay, was it for the thesis which he wrote, or
yes,
was
sir,
it for the publications?
Yeah, for the publication, each and every publication, some particular term is repeated each and every in publications.
Sir, maybe karu ke registration?
Hello.
Yeah, sir.
Mr. Syed, you are from academic background, I suppose.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. At the same time, I'm a research scholar also.
Many times it happens that in academic research, what we do, we are told to get involved. Yeah. So to keep us involved, what we do is, because UGC or AICT or maybe even your regulations at university, they ask for 2 good publications. Now, in order to keep the recommendation, in order to keep the involvement, what our mentor asks is for publications, number of publications, and to increase the number of publications, there can be redundancy, but then you need to give proper citations. If you give proper citations, you tell this is cross-referencing, and then I have used the same, or in your, maybe while publishing the next paper, you include that.
Okay, sir.
Why it is required here.
Okay.
If you give them why this is required, what is the necessity of including this, so then maybe you will have no problem.
So proper proper justification
referencing, citations will solve this. We cannot remove because
continue, sir.
Okay, because the journey is of say 3 or 4 years.
Okay, sir.
And then every time, maybe even your mentor tells you you go for publication for this conference. Every time you cannot have new things all together, but then to keeping it, or otherwise you will have to say, I will publish just 2 papers and that will do. Okay. So proper citations will solve this.
Proper citations. And one more thing, sir. Can you please elaborate this destruction of the primary data? In that one, I could not able to catch you, sir. Sorry.
I think should we go to the PPT?
Yes, in the PPT, you told that some destruction of the primary data.
See, many times it is happened that you are biased.
Okay.
And then when you are biased, your results are showing something. Maybe your mentor also knows that there are no facilities to go to this level. So you get some results, and then you, without following it, what you do is you destruct that, and then you put your own, fabricate your own, or you falsify, what we say, falsify the data.
Okay.
So that way you are distracted somewhere. You distracted data. So I suppose I have answered your query.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And, if sir, can I ask one more question, if your time permits?
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to know a little more about this. Is there any standard procedure to find to check the data analysis tools? I mean, to find the data.
Data analysis
tools, sir. How many types of the data analysis tools are there?
There are many types. It depends on where, in what area you are working on. So many such, in your field, there can be many types of tools. Maybe somewhere the programs also help. A computer program will help. Somewhere you may have a model for it, which is readily available. So that way it can do.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, it's been really very nice presentation, and we are aware about what is the need of publication, and also how to avoid this plagiarism, the topic of today's webinar. Sir, my question is can we self-assess our research publication paper as a student?
What do you mean by self-assess?
Means sir, can we use these tools at our end to first make it clear that where we are actually where is the possibility of these all issues?
See, as I said, what the research scholar do is they have on the net also, there are many free tools available. Some are paid, some are free. Maybe if you want a good tool, you can buy it for some time limit, or even at university, as I said, Urkun. So it is not that you can just go it for once or twice. It is, they may make some provision, maybe the university, they may charge a meager amount, and then you can always go for the plagiarism check.
Okay, sir, secondly, there are many researchers have contributed many research methodologies throughout the year and solving different challenging problems.
Yeah.
So suppose we are we are using somebody's methodology to solve a new problem which has not been solved.
Yes.
Is it comes under a plagiarism or something? And we are cited.
okay. That's a good question. You can cite it, and then it can depend on different domains. It depends where you want to get your work recognized. For example, the same fellow did it for, he has contributed for, say, computer science and engineering, and you also need to contribute there. Then it will be difficult. But the same method can be used for other domain, and you properly, if you properly cite it, and it happens in academic research, it happens, because what for the literature review is, what for the surveys, we see different approaches, how they have done. Maybe we think of now he has applied on this domain. This can be applied somewhere else. if you give proper credit to it. I suppose that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
There is one question on YouTube chat from Rahul Chakre, participant.
Achha.
For
Rahul.
SCI publication, what will be acceptable similarity index?
Achha, see, Rahul, sorry, I will not be able to answer it. So, what UGC says, acceptable index or plagiarism, it is 10 to 50, below 10%, that way. So, there, really sorry. So, it can go up to 10% similar.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, all questions are answered from chat
thank
box
you.
and YouTube chat.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So, really, I should thank the coordinators for giving me a chance. Students, plagiarism will continue. It will be a problem, despite all the efforts which the mentors, tutors, they will be taking. But thing is, we should guide them in right direction. The teachers and the mentors has to guide them in right direction, and it will be minimized. So we can always help them to minimize plagiarism and earn the credits in form of publications or any academic credits. So thank you very much. Thank you for giving me a chance to put my views, and also thanks to the coordinators on the organizing team. And I'm really sorry if there was few technical glitches at our end also. So thank you for your patience. So thank you very much. Have a great day, and hope you will be learning good things here, and the STTP will be a fruitful one. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us about today's topic, which
Thank you,
is
madam.
publication misconduct. Your session was very informative for all of us. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to call Professor S.S. Dandke to provide further instructions to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you for patience learning. Tomorrow's schedule will be posted on mail as well as WhatsApp group. Thank you.